This week, the Citgo Bassmaster Tour stops at one of the most storied lakes in BASS history. It's the 12th time the tour has visited this Alabama lake, and with good reason. The ability to consistently catch large bass.
Well, Lake Eufaula is, it's one of the best lakes in the country. It's got a little of everything. You have ledges and fishing deep a lot of the year down the lake, and you have a real good river that runs into it. And that's what I like to do. I like to fish shallow, and there's a lot of backwater on the lake. Watercolor from clear to muddy.
We had a little slow period today. The sun came out. These fish don't like sun, and they don't like calm water because they're so shallow. And I got fortunate. About 11 o'clock, it clouded back up, and the wind blew. They started coming. Fine. I caught 3 of my fish off the exact same cast. Once you found that clear little path through there, and you could make that bait run clean, you kept making that cast.
That's a pretty good one. Too good to swing, but I was a little excited.
My wife nicknamed me DC for disappearing Charlie. I have a tendency to have a really good first day, and I'll be up on the sheet pretty high, and then I disappear right off the sheet. And she always says to me, don't be disappearing Charlie today. And this morning she woke up and said that, don't you drop today, don't you disappear on me.
Get a weight. Hartley would need over 18 pounds for the lead. 17 pounds, 15 ounces, 17, 15.
The water's getting right. The water's deep enough now, and the fish were shallow, and they still are shallow. So I hope it plays into my hand where I can catch them.
Gosh, man, you have been so consistent this week.
I've had a good week, Fish, and I hope I make it till tomorrow because I think the water's getting right, and I may do what I like.
At every stop along the way, we've had a West Coast native in the finals. California's Mike Reynolds, day 2 leader with almost 40 pounds, is keeping that tradition alive.
Yeah, I've been here, yeah. Now we're talking. That'll go a good 4.5, 5 pounds with a healthy bass. Sweet. It's for the West Coast guys.
At our last event on Toledo Bend, Edwin Jeevers of Oklahoma made the cut, but eventually did not contend. Watch out for him today. A lot is expected from this young all-arounder from Oklahoma. Our Super 6 will have their hands full just trying to keep up with Mark Menendez today. He's obviously got something terrific going. Charley Hartley has been out here for 8 years plus. This will be his best finish ever, and he could take it all. Even when you look down the list on this Super 6, Peter Calveros, the last man in, consider that he opened up with almost 22 pounds on day 1. If he gets back on his horse today, he could contend for the title as well. The point is, it's wide open, plenty of big fish to catch. The best of all possible worlds as we head into the finals.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Busch.
Well, our field is set. We are ready to get underway with this final day of our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event on Lake Eufaula. We might as well first check in with our leader. He's just now getting underway, getting things up to speed here. Mark Menendez, what's happening? Where are we going?
Well, I tell you, we're gonna ride up here to this little creek and spend most of the morning. And if things work out early like they did yesterday, it's going to be a good day. So anything we catch today will be a big bonus. Nothing to lose and everything to gain is the way I'm looking at it. So,
well, Mark, I kind of halfway expected to see your dog there in the boat with you.
Well, Barkley's on his way. He is my #1 fishing fan, and he is on the way. And I haven't seen my boy for about 3 weeks, and he's the world's best bass fishing Labrador retriever. And he really enjoys being in the boat with me, and he is an awfully faithful traveling companion.
Well, Mark, I know that you love to fish in the state of Alabama. You've had success there before, so that's got to be kind of a plus for you today.
Well, Alabama has always been good to me. I won my first event at Pickwick and set an all-time record at Pickwick, catching those big smallmouth on the road. Made a classic here last time. So Alabama's good. It's always good to be down here in the SEC country where the Wildcats play and where all the Alabama folks love bass fishing.
Well, all right, Mark, good luck to you. Drive carefully. We'll see you a little bit later. Mark Menendez trying to hang on to that lead as we go into the final day here on Eufaula. And now, over to Jerry McInnes over here. And our special guest, we kind of lucked out today, former Classic champ, Angler of the Year, and last year's winner on Lake Eufaula, Denny Brower. We hit a home run, huh?
Tommy, when I grow up,
Me too.
I want to be
hear
Danny
you.
Brower. He all-time top BASS money winner right here in our midst.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. It's very nice of you.
And you did win this event last year.
I did, Jerry. Everything went right. That's what it takes to win a tournament.
So we're going to just squeeze as much info out of you as we possibly can. And, you know, right off the bat, tell us about Lake Eufaula.
Well, Lake Eufaula is one of those lakes that has tremendous history. It's famous for the ledge fishing, especially during the summertime. We're not here during the summertime this time around, so it's going to be shallow water fishing. Most of the guys that are catching them are shallow, and they're doing a good job of it.
And you know, it's kind of a hit or miss deal, I guess.
It is a hit or miss deal. There's a lot of areas out there where you can't get bit right now, but when you get into the right area like these guys are, they seem to be stacked up.
Let's see if we can pinpoint the right areas. Denny, help me out here. Eufaula Creek is where the launch ramp is. Peter T., believe it or not, one of our top 6 is right behind the launch ramp. Just across from Eufaula Creek in what is called the Witch's Ditch, Tommy Biffle and Mark Menendez. We saw Mark head that direction just a minute ago. Downstream, correct me if I'm wrong here, Denny, I would say what? 10 to 15 miles down to Barber Creek?
I think you're real close, Jerry, probably 12 to 15.
That's where Charley Hartley is sitting. And again, back to Eufaula Creek, Mike Reynolds is out at the mouth of that creek. Now then, talk to me a little bit about this area right in here. That's kind of special to you.
That's got special memories. You're absolutely right. That is the area where I actually won the tournament, or caught part of my tournament winning fish last year. And it's a huge flat that drops off into the river channel. It's got a major creek coming in on the upper side of it. Has some flooded willow bushes there. But this year, the fish are on the back side of that flat, kind of a little pocket, and they're busting them.
That's what I was trying to lead you to, because we're going to take Denny out of there, I'm afraid. You know, our last angler, Edwin Jeevers, didn't take him long to get to his spot. He's sitting right out there in that point. The same point, Denny, you were talking about, he's behind that flat where you won last year.
Well, we got a beaver dam right back here. It was 2-3 foot out of the water when the tournament started, and it's completely under the water now. And I was the first boat in there yesterday. Ended up catching some of my better fish out of there yesterday. And when I say first boat, I mean there hadn't been a boat in that thing all week long. I mean, you couldn't get into it. There's no way. And today we're not even going to see it. But hopefully we'll see the bass that are in there that wanted to go in there and make babies. Man, my heart was pounding. I thought, there's one. I was about to say, I thought I was going to catch one there. Ain't a real big one, but...
Well, it's early yet and so dark you can hardly see, but Edwin Jeevers has a clear vision of what you need to do today. Catch them early and often. It's a tight competition, and we're just getting started on Eufaula. Don't go away.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo, by Bush, and by Skeeter.
Our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event on Lake Eufaula here in southeast Alabama. What a race we have today. Some close stuff. The top 3 anglers coming into our finals today within 11 ounces of each other. But the water conditions are changing. Lots of muddy water coming down the old Chattahoochee River. And boy, some guys have found nice water, some haven't. Charley Hartley is a fascinating guy. I've never met anyone who is so into tournament bass fishing. He fishes this circuit, about 6 others. He's almost always tournament fishing, no matter what day of the year it is.
And I found it interesting on the weigh-in stand. He kept talking about probably that tree right there. He kept telling about positioning his boat and throwing at one piece of brush all day long, Tommy. Can you imagine that?
Thank you.
Have to have a lot of patience.
Same tree as yesterday. You don't know how good you just felt, little fishy. Oh, thank you, Lord. Isn't it funny how we get religious at this point?
Well, amen there, Charlie. Hey, I want to look at his little pocket right here. As I said before, he is really doing one thing. Most guys would come into this pocket, and I think they'd probably move around in those stick-ups, maybe flip them, maybe throw a spinner bait, but they would have their boat against that bank over there. Charlie is over here on the flat. He's not anchored, but he keeps his, with a trolling motor, keeps his boat in the same spot and makes virtually the same cast over and over again to a path, as he says.
For some reason, I've thought several times about a buzzbait, and it would be so stupid to set this bait down right now, but I think if I buzzed a buzzbait through there, I'd catch a fish. I wish I had the guts to do it.
Charlie's been throwing that spinnerbait for so long. It does take a lot of nerve to change in midstream. Mike Reynolds is throwing a buzzbait, though. Of course, a buzzbait is a lure designed to stay right up on top with special blades that really cause a lot of racket.
See, the lakes come up so much in here that now the water, I mean, the water's way back in there. You know, before, when we first started this tournament, this was actually land right here. So the water's come up 3 feet now, and the problem is you can't get back in there to fish. And I really think there's a lot of fish in there. As the day goes on, we'll hear them busting shad, you know, chasing bait back in the thick stuff. And it's just really hard to get a bait in there. I've got some ideas we're going to try later. Like I say, we're going to just dissect this little area today. We're going to do everything it takes trying to figure out how to catch these bass.
I've had tons of dogs. Dogs have always been part of our lives. My dad has a little dog named Misty.
Over to Mark Menendez in the Witch's Ditch area, and Mark is really missing his dog, Barkley.
She just had puppies, and Barkley, he had to have the operation. But those puppies came out and looked just like Barkley. So we kept one of them, and we're going to call him Broccoli.
Tommy, I don't understand how anybody can get so wrapped up in their dog, but
right.
Mark is like is a lot like Hartley. He's throwing a spinnerbait, and the water in the ditch back here looks pretty muddy to me, especially comparing it to the other water we've seen.
Baby. Come on, baby. All right, number one, good 3-pounder. Got him with that little trailer hook. All right, that's a good way to get started. Number one.
Back over to Edwin Jeevers. Now, we mentioned earlier he made our top 12 at the last event down at Toledo Bend Reservoir in Louisiana. Didn't make the top 6, and I think he feels that a little bit. I think he feels he's got something to prove here on Eufaula.
You may be right. You know, really, the first time we ever saw him was on an open last year up in the Lake of the Ozarks, and I thought then that this kid's pretty impressive. He's doing a good job. Now, he is throwing a buzzbait a lot, and the really good thing about a buzzbait is that you can cover lots of water, and you can throw it anywhere. You can throw it in those bushes, around trees, and keep it moving pretty fast, and, as I say, cover lots of water.
You can throw it a long way, too, and that's important when you're in shallow water to stay off your fish, right?
Of course, the bad thing about it is you lose a lot of fish on it.
Something's wrong today because they're just not eating it like they had been. I mean, I thrown through there, I'm throwing something else. It's making me mad.
Well, Edwin Jeevers definitely has his head in the ball game today. Took the quick lead, but now Mark Menendez is back on top, and Charley Hartley right on both of their tails. This is the kind of event we've been looking for all year long. We've really got ourselves a race today. We'll be right back.
I don't know if you know anything about me, Mr. Fish, but I'm one thing. I'm persistent, so you're going to see that bait again. They're laughing at me.
Tour pros are on historic Lake Eufaula this week, and what a race we have on this final day. Two of the top contenders looking for their first win ever. That would be Jeevers and Hartley, and this man right behind him, Tommy Biffle, has won his share. Known as a flipper, but he's not flipping this week.
He's throwing a spinnerbait. He's kind of like that baseball pitcher with a real good curveball. As long as the batter knows he can throw it, he doesn't have to throw it. When you see Tommy Biffle with a string of bass, you automatically think he caught him flipping. He caught him on a spinnerbait.
Not a real good fish, but he's a start for some reason. They're just not real aggressive, but they hit it pretty good when they hit it. And they just want it moving real slow, and that's why I've made this spinnerbait like this. It's got a 4.5 front Colorado silver and a 5 gold in the back, and you can crank it along there really slow. It thumps and moves a lot of water for this dirtier water, so it's been a good bait for a lot of years.
Over to Mike Reynolds, who's still trying to call one up on his buzzbait.
We just need a little gravy fish, a little TV fish right now. Now, if I get a big one, then it's going to be all about hang on and go for broke. Until I get a big bite.
My goodness, I told you earlier that you lose a lot of fish on a buzzbait. They'll break your heart. Fish will come up like that one did and not even touch the bait, just reacting to the noise on the top. And Mike is doing a good thing right here, and that's picking up a Citgo or some kind of plastic and throwing right back in there because that fish can still be in that area.
He never touched it. I never felt him. He never touched it. Yeah, he just rolled. I never touched it. Oh. I mean, that was, believe me, I've been catching. That was a good one. Oh, man, that was it. You had the strike and everything. Why didn't he eat it? A lot of times, if you're fishing a buzzbait like that or topwater, a fish hits it. You know, if you have a follow-up bait like this Citgo or something, you throw it right back in there, the fish actually thinks he's killed, you know, he's killed the thing he swirled at, and it falls down nice and slow. You get a lot of strikes. That's a good little tip. You know, for a topwater fisherman, you should always have a throwback bait ready.
And a lot of these fish that I've been fishing for are all pre-spawn fish. They haven't started to spawn yet, so they're... Oh, there's a big fish. They're all feeding on shad. And they're in these shallow pockets because the shad have come in. It's not that big, but it's a nice one.
Peter Thilveros, Peter T's, long been one of the big names out here on the tour. He started his morning just right around the corner from the launch, fishing some riprap there. He has since moved over to this spot, Grassy Creek, just continually looking for some better-looking water. Peter still about 9-8 pounds behind the leaders, including Edwin Jeevers, who I got to tell you has found some nice-looking water.
Well, it's a lot better than... Well, we saw Peter when he was fishing back there by the marina. Man, was it muddy. His water looked a little bit better. Edwin's looks real good right here, and he is at this point throwing a little crankbait, a little storm subwart, which goes maybe 2 foot deep.
Edwin Jeevers won his first bass fishing tournament at the age of 12, and you'll not believe how he pulled it off.
My name's Edwin Devers. I'm from Mansville, Oklahoma. I live on a small farm with my dad. Fish for a living, and I enjoy it every day. It's kind of a funny story. I was fishing out of a one-man little kick boat. It was on Lake Worth down in Texas, and I won it, actually. Everybody else, they all pulled up in these $20,000, $30,000 nitros and Rangers and everything else, and, you know, there I am. I got a little 2-horse on the back, putzing up there, you know, and they're looking at my stringer hanging off the side, and it's pretty neat, I guess, you know, it is something. What I'm fishing here is just a beaver dam, and I think why these fish are here is we had a whole bunch of rain, and obviously bass are wanting to move up and spawn and make babies, but what we have is a clear water back here, and that rain's brought the lake up a whole bunch, and it's caused a lot of muddy water to come down. And this beaver dam, you know, it was isolated. It was completely all by itself, and there's just a little pocket of clear water here. I think is why these fish are latent in here.
Boy, you can pull the muddy water out of this pocket now and start seeing what Edwin is fishing. Here's the beaver dam that he's been talking about. Earlier in the week, the water was really low, and you could see it. It's up over that beaver dam right now. Here are the paths into this pocket, and they're very important. These are the little drop-offs, the little ditches. The fish travel down these to get to the spawning areas, and Edwin is, as I said, moving his boat all around in that pocket and fishing up on those flats.
Over to Charley Hartley, self-professed neat freak, one of the all-time top 10, I think. Has a black boat, a black car, says he buys black because it gets dirtier quicker. He can clean them quicker.
And Charley has caught a fish on the right side of the boat, which is kind of unusual because his special spot is to his left. He's throwing in that one spot over and over again.
That fish just touches. We're putting in live well. It's the first one to go home.
What a great race we have going on here. Edwin Jeevers in the lead right now, but only barely. Charley Hartley right behind him there. When we come back, we'll get last year's champ in the studio again to offer some more of his expert analysis. Denny Brower when we come back. Welcome back to our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event on Lake Eufaula, and what a week we have had so far. It started off on day one, Tommy Biffle, 22 pounds plus, to take the lead. The next day, Mike Reynolds of California, a two-day total of almost 40 pounds to be the second leader. And the third leader in 3 days was Mark Menendez, again, a 22-pound plus stringer of fish. But on this day, the final day, take a look at the scoreboard. Mark Menendez has been overtaken by both Edwin Jeevers and Charley Hartley. And now, Denny, Jerry, it seems like everywhere we go this year, there are one or two really good fishing holes that are not holding up over the 4 days.
Yeah, Menendez has bailed on his spot already. Hartley has not bailed on his spot by any means. In fact, Denny, I have to ask you, what's the longest you've ever sat in one place?
It would drive me crazy what he's doing, Jerry. I've got to move around. I've got to hunt and peck and search for fish. But he's found a place where he can make one cast, and it's amazing.
Well, I tell you what, he, again, is in Barber Creek, and he has sat here, Denny, for 4 days. I'm going to show you exactly where his boat is sitting. Most of his casts are towards that little twig right there. Explain what's going on.
Well, you've got a creek channel there that's probably acting as a funnel area for the fish to move into spawn on that particular flat. And he's got some targets that are on the outside bend of a creek channel, which is always a good place to fish. And he's figured out the cast to make, and boy, he's catching them.
Well, let's take a look at his bait now. And, you know, this is kind of the case with several of the anglers. They're changing blades on these baits. So this is the exact lure that Charley is fishing with. And Denny, he has a Colorado blade on here. Now, before you even say anything, I want to throw a willow leaf up there where you can see the difference. And most of our anglers, Tommy Biffle already told us, most of the anglers are changing from this willow leaf to a Colorado blade.
That doesn't surprise me at all, Jerry. In muddy water, the Colorado blade puts out more vibration, more pressure waves. It's also easier to keep off the bottom to give lift to the bait. Clear water, the willow leaf blade is a more subtle presentation, a better choice. But in muddy water, you need to go to that Colorado.
Man, you could almost buzz that guy and get a hit or two, couldn't you? And by buzzing, I mean running right across the surface, but right there is the blade. And Denny, what does that feel like on your rod tip? What does it feel like when you're fishing it?
You can see it, Jerry. To me, it's easier fishing because it vibrates so much. You can see the rod tip shake. You can feel every vibration, every rotation of a Colorado blade.
And we're watching Hartley hard at it, but you're saying that, the viewer might say, well, why don't you fish that all the time? You're saying clear water
It can be almost too overbearing to clear water fish. You mean a more subtle, faster presentation there. Dirty water, slower presentation. Colorado is the way to go.
And I tell you, Charlie's using about a 1/4 ounce head, which seems a little bit light, but especially since our other guys are fishing much heavier. Is that anything?
Well, it's shallow water where he's at. He wants to keep it off the bottom. That light head helps, and also the shape of the blade. The Colorado blade gives it more lift and will keep it off the bottom. So he's doing the right thing.
Hey, Menendez is down in the Barber Creek area as well, and he too is throwing a spinnerbait.
Yeah, a spinnerbait in that dirty water is definitely a very, very good choice of lures.
And of course, you can cover a lot of water.
You can cover a lot of water. They don't know exactly where the fish are positioned. A lot of them are scattered in that short grass. It's just a bait of choice. It really is a good bait for this situation.
Took a long time to get that second one. Long time to get that second one.
Okay, now Jeevers is not exactly like Hartley. He is not camped out in one spot, but he is fishing one big area. He's moving around a little bit, and Denny, he's just inside again of where you won the event last year.
He sure is, and the water clarity's a little better there. It's protected from the wind. I think it's a wise choice.
Speaking of wise, how about him throwing this little crankbait that's probably going in 2 foot of water?
Well, those fish have seen a lot of spinnerbaits this week, and he's giving them a different look, and it's paying off.
Well, Tommy, I tell you what, he's looking pretty good. Matter of fact, he and Hartley are looking pretty good. How about updating us?
Well, Jeevers and Hartley right around 62 pounds plus. Are they going to pull away from Mark Menendez, make this a real two-man race, or can Menendez catch up? We're going to find out all that and more, so don't go away.
We got one in the boat. It's been a slow morning. Had a couple others swirl on the buzzbait. We're throwing top water. You got a spot up the river. Should have some clear water in it. Though dirty water's kind of filtering back into these areas. Once they turned the pipe off in the back of my slough, that allowed the dirty water to come back in. So what we're doing now, we're going to run up the river. I got a spot where I caught a couple of real nice fish this tournament. Little Barber Creek. Go up there and throw some buzzbaits and spinnerbaits. Let this place warm up a little bit. The afternoon seems to be better here. We're going to take a run up there and see what we can do.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Chevy Trucks, by Mercury, and by Diamond Cut Jeans.
Our tour event coming from Lake Eufaula. There's the town of Eufaula down there. Eufaula along the Chattahoochee River, so important to bass fishing in the southeast. It forms Eufaula, of course, Seminole, West Point Reservoir, Lanier, and so forth. But lots of mud this week, so finding clearer water has been a big part of the story, as our own Kirsten Gum can tell us.
Well, these pipes and pumping stations, which are all over Lake Eufaula, have had an impact on the tournament. Now, every March, wildlife refuge officials drain their migratory waterfowl resting areas so they can plant crops to provide food for the waterfowl next winter. As you can see, this water is much clearer. It is filled with tons of nutrients, including crawfish, and it's also a couple degrees warmer, which can mean a lot for a fish. So when they open up these pipes, well, it's kind of like ringing the dinner bell for the entire food chain. It attracts bait fish, it attracts bass, and as we've seen, it attracts anglers to these areas.
Well, there's no pumping on Eufaula today, that is for sure. One guy, though, is probably pumping his fist after the reshuffle in the Bush Angler of the Year points. Let's look at those stats right now. Bud Pruitt of Spring, Texas, he's on top. Jim Bitter is out of the top. As a matter of fact, he's out of the top 10. Pruitt is followed by Shaw Grigsby and Mark Kyle. And Denny Brower, you have won the Classic before, and you've won the Angler of the Year. Which one of those two is harder to pull off?
Oh boy, Tommy, they're both very, very hard to pull off. The Angler of the Year really requires an angler to be consistent, almost conservative at times, where the Classic, you've got 3 days to lay it on the line. You almost gamble a little bit. You have to force the issue there.
All right, two different animals is what you're saying.
Oh, totally different.
Two different things. Let's take a look out on the lake now at a guy who may have an Angler of the Year title in his future, Edwin Jeevers. What do you think of this young man?
Well, I'm very impressed. I haven't seen him on the water, but watching the footage that we've been looking at, he knows how to fish a lot of different baits, and he's fishing them well, and obviously catching fish.
Now, am I to understand that you have fished this spot or somewhere at least very close to it before?
Last year's tournament, the first day, I actually caught my fish out on the flat in front of where Edwin's fishing right now. And it's a great area. Traditionally, over the years on Eufaula, there's been a lot of tournaments won in that duck pond area.
He's got the little crankbait out. Most of our guys doing the little spinner baits, flipping a jig today. What advantage does that give him?
Well, they can cover more water. These fish are scattered in that grass, and using a shallow crankbait or a spinner bait, you can really cover water versus flipping, say, a jig or a tube bait. You don't know where those fish are really located. If they were on bushes, that'd be different, but scattered in that grass, these baits allow them to really work a larger amount of cover in a shorter portion of time.
Edwin Jeevers from Mansville, Oklahoma. So far in the Bassmasters, his best finish has been a 6th place. This week at Eufaula, he is online to do just that. He's got 65.5 pounds right now.
This was dry the first day of the tournament. I couldn't get within 100 yards of it, but as the waters continually came up, the bass are just moving right up with it. They're gonna be in here spawning. And I think why they come up here, you know, the shallower it is, the quicker it warms up, and you got all that new nutrients and stuff up there that those fish are eating. Little minnows or shad flopping everywhere in here. Straight mug out a little bit. All right, let's get another one.
This is a big, big lake, Eufaula, at least a long lake. And while Jeevers is up there in almost blue skies, we see Charley Hartley down here with a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and so forth. And that really helps him for what he's trying to do.
Yeah, especially with the spinnerbait technique. You get a rainy day like that, that really helps excite the fish, makes them a little easier to catch in that shallow water. But you also got several other things working, different water clarities from area to areas.
You say it helps them catch them with a spinnerbait technique. And by that, you mean the stealth is important when they're up in shallow water like that. It gives a lot more distractions, right?
Absolutely. It breaks up the surface a little bit. I think the fish actually just get more excited.
Yes! That's what we're looking for, friends. That's the quality I've been catching. I just had to beg a little, didn't I? We'll put her over on the side where I want all 5 to be the good ones. Yes. Let it rain, let it rain, let it rain. Big female moving up to go back to those ditches. I caught her on the way in. And if you'll notice the sticks she was around, I'd hate to tell you how many fish have come off those 2 sticks. That one was in between the back ones and these front ones, but most of the fish have been on this tree right closest to us. But those are the kind I need. You give Charlie a few more of those and he's gonna have a shot at it. That's a 4-pounder anyway. 5 of those equal 20.
Well, Charley Hartley, not only a good fisherman, but also a Cracker Jacket man.
He's got 20 pounds figured out right now, Tommy.
Edwin Jeevers has now got his limit, so if he gets this one to the boat, he's going to be culling now 67.5 pounds.
It's exciting just to watch this. He's hammered them. I mean, catching them out of that heavy stuff, but what amazes me is that little bitty crankbait and how he's horsing them out of the cover with it. Apparently he's using real heavy line to be able to do that.
I can see you kind of cringing every time that happens.
That scares me, swinging fish on a little crankbait like that.
Pretty fish.
Nice fish.
That one in the live well. Now, earlier I put that red ring on my smallest. And I'm gonna grab that and I'm gonna throw that one back. I think another reason why I've been so successful here this week is there's a massive flat out in front of where I'm fishing. And last year when I was here, it was in May, there was probably 50 boats that started out there, and it's just a big old flat. And I think that water coming up, I got a lot of new fish that are coming in every day. And I think it's one of the big reasons why this area has been so key. You know, in bass fishing, flats are the deal. I mean, that's where they live, big flats. And the bigger the flat, the more bass you got. And when I say flats, I'm talking about an area that's shallow, and all flats will have little drains and ditches, and that's what I got out there. And those fish are coming up here to this warmer water. They're gonna spawn. Stay on there, stay on there, stay on there, girl, stay on there. Oh, it's not that big, but I'll definitely, oh, she barely hooked. Barely hooked. Now I got another one in there that time, that's good. I like to see that. That's a color. That's a color. That's another pretty
69 pounds now for Edwin Jeevers. He is definitely culling and looking good in this tournament. The man closest to him, Charley Hartley, has been at it, as we say, 9 years, and he is a one-of-a-kind personality.
I fished my first bass tournament when I was 12 years old, and then I've been reading Bassmaster's magazine since I was 6 or 7 years old, and I used to sit at the breakfast table with my mom and tell her every morning this is what I want to do. And I was fortunate to have a mom that didn't say, you can't fish for a living. She said, if you got a dream, and if you work hard and sacrifice for that dream, you can have that dream. And I'm sitting right here, one of the happiest men in the world. This is what I've always dreamed of doing. At first, I thought she was 6 or 7. There she is. That's a keeper. We'll take her. Number 5. Throwing to Charlie's good old sticks. What do you think of that, sports fans?
Well, that one ought to keep. That puts Charley Hartley about one medium-sized fish for the fishing on Eufaula behind Edwin Jeevers. But these guys are distancing themselves from the field. The nearest guy, Menendez, and he is several pounds back. We got the last of the fishing coming up right after this. Don't go away.
Now we're going to get rid of that little first one. And then we might just catch 10 or 12 more, because I really enjoy catching them. Give me a little skin. Look at that. Anyone want lunch? That's a crappie.
Our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event, there's the view from above, Lake Eufaula. What a tournament we have had. As a matter of fact, when you look at our scoreboard, you see that our top 3 anglers alone have caught nearly 200 pounds of fish. Edwin Jeevers is in the driver's seat right now, but boy, what a slim lead over Charley Hartley. Back on the lake, Mark Menendez, maybe another keeper here. He had such great expectations starting today. Caught 22 pounds yesterday in a really special place that didn't pan out today.
Yeah, the high muddy water kind of wiped him out. And as we look at his scoreboard, every now and then we look down there at 5th and 6th place and think those guys are losing, when in fact they beat 160, 180 guys to get to that spot.
They've had awesome weeks.
They certainly have. They are definitely not in last place. And I tell you what, Evers has had a great week. Hartley is right on his tail. It's still going to be a lot of fun here right at the end, figuring out which one of these two guys is going to win this baby.
Oh, son. Oh. Oh, yes, thank you, Lord. Get that fish. All right. Woo-hoo-hoo. Man, all right. Man, that fish crushed that thing. I needed that one. Needed that one. Ooh, I got a little excited. I'm gonna get that hook out and stop shaking in a second. That's a nice one. Look how fat she is. Fixing to do her deal.
Kind of admire Mike Reynolds for sticking with that buzzbait all day, but you got a feel for him too. All the fish he's lost. What a day he could have had.
Golly. That was a one, too. That was a nice fish. Oh, boy. Right there. Oh, you sucker. Buzzbait. Oh. Finally, one ate it right. I missed that sucker. Man alive. That one hurt a little bit there. I don't know what I did wrong. That's the, you know, the wide world of sports. Thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
Charley Hartley is certainly not defeated yet.
Thrown over there towards his tree.
That look familiar?
Yeah, it all looks familiar. We've seen that about 50 times, it seems like, today. The only thing that's changed is his uniform when it rains.
Say, you know, these guys are out there fishing, and they do not know what their competitor is doing. I have an idea. Charley thinks that he is really in good position, and he is, man. All he needs is one good fish, and you know there's a good one over by that bush that would put him up right next to Evers. And look, there you go. Practically his next cast is over against that one bush, and right there's a fish that will make it close, Tommy.
All right, he's going to be breathing distance, if not tied, with Edwin Evers.
Oh, that fish even had a piece of the bush in his mouth.
Unbelievable.
Well, we got to go check on Edwin Evers. I mean, it's down to these two guys right here, and Evers staying in that spot all day long. You got to love that.
All day, man. Tommy, he's been in there for 4 straight days.
Right.
70 pounds of fish have come out of this area, 70 pounds plus, I guess, and you know, he's got to be feeling it. He has to know that, boy, he's very close to a BASS victory. That's a big deal.
Don't do that. Yes, sir. Woo! Thank you, man.
Edwin Devers is feeling it. I think we're all feeling it. We have got a heck of a weigh-in coming up. Don't go away.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Yamaha, by Citgo, and by Bush.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. You've been waiting all week for the top 6 pros, and it's going to happen right now.
Peter Thilveros had a long way to go today to catch the leaders, but just really couldn't get any good ones to bite. Only one fish today to finish in 6th place. Tommy Biffle came out blazing the first day of competition, but his fishing spot just didn't last. He falls to a 5th place finish. Mike Reynolds' terrific enthusiasm just wouldn't die, but his end result was only 2 keepers and a 4th place finish.
Here we go. This guy lit him up yesterday. Welcome, Charley Hartley. Come on, Charlie. Oh, we have not seen a limit. Come on. 5 bass would do it. I think that would push him over the top. There you go. What a load of bass. 5 bass limit to the scales. He only needs 3-4 for the lead. 14 pounds and 14 ounces. Show me a couple of them.
I caught 6 or 7 fish out of one tree, and I discovered about halfway through the tournament that if I'd let my line get over the branches, it presented the bait a little differently than just bringing it down at the base of the tree. And the first time I discovered that, it was by mistake, of course. We never make bad casts being professional bass fishermen. But my line got blown over the branches, and I was gingerly working my bait up to the tree to not shake the tree and spook a fish. And something about that presentation, allowing the bait to flutter slower in the little bit of open water behind that tree, triggered a real big fish yesterday, about a 4.5 pounder. The second time it happened, it once again was because of a poor cast. And a fish ate it again. And the first time I figured it was a fluke. The second time, I'm no dummy. I kept throwing through those branches. And today, 3 of those fish climbed those branches to be caught.
Here we go. This guy's been ultra consistent. Please welcome Edwin Jeevers. He's been to 2 Citgo Bassmasters Classics. And if he keeps this up, he'll be back. You've been so consistent.
Oh, man, it's been a blessing this week. Let me tell you, Fish.
All right, we didn't think the pipe would hold up. He had one little spot to himself. We go to the scales. Folks, he needs 14 pounds and 5 ounces weight. 17 pounds, 7 ounces, 17, 7. Oh, look at that. Buddy, it worked. It held up all week.
It did, Fish. Man, what can I say? It's been an awesome week for me. I mean, when my thumbs are hurting this bad from catching so many fish, I mean, I know it was an awesome week. It's definitely a good pain, let me tell you. It's a pain that I'd love to have every turn of my fish. Hey, I'm just happy up here. It's no doubt a blessing, and I'm real fortunate to be fishing today. And you know, I'll let the cards fall where they may. And I know Mark's behind me, and you know, he may have a big sack. He had 21 pounds, 22 pounds yesterday, so we'll have to see what happens.
I know everybody's out there cheering this last angler on. I see a dog in his boat. I think his name is Barkley. Let's bring him in. Coming into this final round, he had a 1-ounce lead. Bring me Mark Menendez. He's got to have him. Yesterday's catch, 22 pounds and 15 ounces, the largest we've seen during the competition. Edwin Jeevers, what are you thinking right now?
I'm just wishing he'd hurry up and wait. Thanks.
Come on, Menendez. He's going back for more. There you go. Come on, he's looking at Edwin. What's up now?
I don't think he has any more fish.
Wait. There's nothing else in that skeeter.
There's nothing else in there, Fish, and I want to wish Edwin congratulations. It's been a great week. He's a great friend. I'm really thrilled for him. Let's see what we got.
Check a weight today. Menendez, 3 bass, 6 pounds and 2 ounces. Give him a big round. Mark Menendez, great champion is all right. Edwin Jeevers, you won this thing. Here you go, your championship trophy. $100,000 Citgo Bassmasters champion, Edwin Jeevers.
There you go, Edwin Jeevers. A great 4 days and particularly flawless on this final day. Our congratulations to our champ at Eufaula. Before we wrap it up here, let's take a look at the Citgo Rookie of the Year standings. Mark Kyle is in the first position there. And then 2 guys named Reynolds, Jeff Reynolds and Mike Reynolds, who had great tournaments here at Lake Eufaula. The Bush Angler of the Year stats one more time. Bud Pruitt of Houston, Texas moves into the top spot there. And not too early, guys. Let's look like a genius. Make your picks now for Angler of the Year. Jerry?
Me first.
You first.
He's going to trump me whatever I say.
So good, Danny. Oh, sure, yeah.
And he's won the darn thing, so he
Does that help? I don't know.
Well, I say the Angler of the Year race is over. I know that over. I think it's over. I think this thing is all set up for Shaw Grigsby, who is kind of hovering there in second place. I think that We're going into the real spawning season, and boy, that's got Shaw Grigsby written all over it. So let's hear your thought.
I like your reasoning. I really do. I think Shaw does have an excellent chance, and he's never ever won Angler of the Year or the Classic, so he's very, very hungry to capture it. He's in position, but I look at the second 10, Jerry, and you've got Gary Klein, you've got Mark Davis, you've got Kevin Van Dam. All three of them have won Angler of the Year before.
Even looking at the
They
top,
have won it before now,
You're not looking at the top 10 at all.
We're only halfway through.
I know.
There's 5 tournaments left. Those guys are very capable. We could see a complete reshuffling of the order after a couple more tournaments.
How about that? Interesting, both you guys. Of course, the correct answer is Jay Ellis. But before we go, we want you to preview Santee Cooper, our next stop.
Santee Cooper's got tremendous history. It's an excellent, excellent fishery. The hydrilla's gone.
Yeah.
Basically gone, so people are going to have to fish it different than when we were there last. Cypress trees are going to come into play, but we're in a water temperature zone right now that fish are going to be spawning, which plays right back into what Jerry was saying. Shaw Grigsby, excellent bedfish fisherman. It's going to be good. It'll take a 4-pound average. 20, 30-pound stringers would not surprise me at all.
All right, definitely looking forward to that. That's where we'll be next time. Before we go, back to the stage, Edwin Jeevers did something really great, he said, for the pros.
I'd go to college, no doubt at all. I'd go to college and get college education. You always got to have something to fall back on if things don't work for you. And fish every day that you can. I mean, don't cut too many classes when you go to college to be fishing. So you need to be fishing as much as you can. And you know, I'd get in a club or some type of pro-am format and just try to learn off everybody you possibly can and read the Bassmaster magazine. That's how I started.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPNOutdoors.com.